Welcome everyone to another live stream. I guess we're live, at least it looks healthy and live. Welcome everyone to this Let's Talk Apple Mac Pro here. Not only have I previously commented this when it was announced and released, but also we are certainly not only using Mac, even writing Mac software, but also in the need of some high performance gear. And we just built here the other day in video the AMD Ryzen 3950X, of which we are right now live streaming from. And before people later say, but I'm comparing apples with oranges, yes, that is true. And additionally, however, that is just the nature of, even if you compare a Dell XPS or a IBM Lenovo ThinkPad, yes, apple and oranges. But other might later say, but René, you are not even in the market for Mac Pro. That is not true. I'm totally in the market for Mac Pro. I would even say I'm like completely, in previous times or even maybe today, I would be the target audience. Not only did we purchase a Mac Pro, so my company Exacode here, we also, among other things, except I founded Exacode for embedded Linux and open source stuff, didn't really sell so well, so we also did Mac apps. Exact Scan, OCR, Get Recompress, it's a little bit better. And so we have still some apps in the App Store, the ones that we didn't pull out there. And we are doing a lot of Mac development and we purchased. So not only I'm putting here money where my mouth is, I myself, with my company, we purchased expensive Macs. We purchased this Apple Mac Pro here, even our Linux listing here, not making this up. You have seen this on this channel. So when you would tell me later, yeah, but yeah, you make this stuff up. No, just watch the previous many hundred videos. And so Mac Pro, I still have it. We purchased this also when it was relatively new, first-hand at Apple, even with 20 at that time they had 20% discount for developers. Not sure if they still have it. And this is, I would say, so there you see how much am I the target audience. This Mac Pro that we still have here, although we are not using it for many years, it's mostly standing here collecting dust because value. Previous videos, and so this was, I think, after development discounts, I think this was 7,000 euro minus maybe 20%. I think we paid somewhat like 6,000 something in 2006 or 7. So yeah, so much to I'm not the target audience. Additionally, not only did I purchase this also, but a G5. So even before just some year before I founded Exacode, I purchased this Mac G5. Yes, back in the day, not even for Mac, but for my PowerPC Linux needs. But there you see how much am I the target audience. I would say like 100%, somewhat sort of, especially with our professional Mac software that we are making. And last but not least, actually, I accidentally revealed it already. I also have a G4 Cube. You've seen this here on previous videos, maybe, or if you are new, maybe want to watch those. And this is the only thing, this is not what I got brand new. I got this used. However, I maxed it out completely. Originally 450, 500 megahertz G4 CPU. I maxed it out with a 1.2 gigahertz CPU upgrade card, Radeon 7500 or something, and 1.5 gigabyte of memory. Nearly as much max out as you can get there. And this is only, at that time I was a student, I did not get this new, but anyway, so much to, yes, I have here expensive Apple gear, I collected it, it's collecting dust here, somewhat sort of, and yeah. Theoretically, I really need a Mac, or there's some compute power. So let's see how this Mac Pro compares, right, shall we? So this is a Mac Pro. The design is better than the trash can, but whatever. Honestly, I don't really care too much for a desktop machine. I mean, in my opinion, it's like total, yeah, it looks somewhat sort of maybe a little bit nice. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's better than the trash can, but YOLO, whatever, it's like, yeah, whatever. Of course, the pieces here, proprietary, so upgrading, working with this, it's the usual, yeah. You can't even install normal devices that need additional power because you don't have regular PCI power cables there. Even for graphic cards or something, you might need a special adapter cable kit that, of course, this adapter cable kit is $89 euro something. It's hilarious. And So yeah, looking relatively nice, but whatever, super. And so there it starts, super expensive. And that is, as the G5, I think the G5 started around $2,000. The Mac Pro that we have also maybe 2,000 to 3,000 starting price. And I would say that is fine with, yes, inflation, but whatever, but also manufacturing. Previously, the G5 might have been assembled in Ireland. Nowadays, everything is assembled in China. Anyway, even the Mac Pro, except for the US, but the rest of the world apparently, according to some user posts there. Yes, Apple is a little bit tricky. They assemble some snowflake ones for the US market in the US. The rest for the world, they still manufacture in China. But I don't even care where it's manufactured, US or China. Just if you later say, yes, but it's assembled in USA, like, no, it isn't. It's some 10% or whatever, but whatever. Welcome everyone, also American. And so with this being said, yes, it's an expensive bling bling machine. Also, yeah, again, recurring reminder, I don't need this bling bling, I need a machine that works. And let's compare the prices. You have seen this year's starting price. What I wanted to say is the starting price is obscene, right? So if you click here on buy, I'm here on the UK side. I was on the UK side. Why is it? No, I hope it's still the UK side. Yeah, why does it say 0800? Anyway, maybe it's a UK number. I'm here on the UK for you better readability. Otherwise, I would here on the German Euro page. Just maybe I should have actually. Oh no, I wanted to point something else out. So, but whatever. You see the starting price here, 5,500 British pound or 6,000 euro, dollar, whatever you name it. And this is obscene, right? So this is far away from, well, not even the G4 Cube, but the G5, the Mac Pro. I would argue previous machines in this category of this kind of CPU and GPU question mark, but we're getting to that. So yeah, the price obscene. I would have nothing against this machine, except proprietary bits and pieces, SSD, T2 security chip, maybe not Linux friendly, not upgrade friendly. You can't even, maybe potentially not even swap the SSD. Even if you get a compatible SSD, most likely the T2 chip might prevent swapping it with another model because security, but whatever. And for $3,000, I would say nothing. But this is my point. Apple is losing the connection even in their own reality distortion field, and this is, in my opinion, not excusable anymore. And this is why I wanted to say this from someone who, proof here on this YouTube channel, I have lots of Macs. I would theoretically maybe need a Mac, but this kind of Macs, I'm not buying into them. And when you compare this now, what do you get for 6,000 US dollar? You get a 3.5 gigahertz 8-core. This is yesteryear, right? So this is what I built last summer, the Ryzen 2700 here, just taken it out in my mini ITX case, but whatever. And so yeah, this is last year's performance. Certainly this is Intel Xeon here anyway. For this money, right? My last year's Ryzen build was a total of a little bit over 1,000 euro. It's total cheap, I would argue. But even if you buy some premium brand, whatever, Dell Lenovo, that would certainly be much more affordable. So totally entry-level performance, right? Even if you ignore that 6,000 euro dollar is too much for normal people. And even if you now tell me, again, I'm the target audience. And if you argue, and I'm already an enthusiast and software developer, right? If you now would argue, even I'm not the target audience, then who is it? The people like Silicon Graphic, which by the way, fun fact, we also have here, if you're interested in this stuff. Yes, Silicon Graphics, Octane, that we also have here, entry level price, when new 30, 40,000 US dollar. Yes, but this were the inventor of 3D graphics. And they had, for that time, of course, outstanding graphic performance. There was nearly no other, there was not really, I can say, there wasn't another vendor who had such kind of 3D performance. SGI, literally the inventors of sort of, kind of, anyway, 3D graphics, certainly, what later became OpenGL. And Apple is not this, right? Apple is not Silicon Graphics. Apple is just using commodity off-the-shelf pieces from Intel and AMD, And this is why this doesn't compare. I only point this out because people on Twitter said, but silicon graphics. Yeah, but silicon graphics also was not commodity hardware off the shelves. So if we finish this comparison, so entry-level CPU, a little bit, so again, yes, ECC memory. Again, I would argue, I had just recently, I have only one test system with ECC memory, and even we don't need it. Bit flips are so rare. We are not running here in space station, and even musicians and stuff. I mean, even if a bit flips there in your audio, which nearly never happens, and whatever, you never hear it. And also ECC memory, yes, you can buy it, right? It's not nothing special. It's not like silicon graphics invented. It's regular off-the-shelf hardware, not even that expensive. And graphics here, of course, other people said already, entry-level graphics, similar of this cheap piece of garbage that even we ourselves have as test set up here in this Ryzen build of which we are streaming right now. So in my opinion, total hilarious price and performance wise, and on top of the proprietary serviceability of proprietary SSDs coupled to the T2 chip, if you later want to use it with Linux and Windows, yes, you can do it with some, maybe something doesn't work perfectly in terms of NVMe access. There were some Linux patches needed for other T2 based systems. So shall we compare the performance? And I opened here, of course we are not for legal reasons running here right now Hackintosh stuff on this because legal reasons, but we can compare other people Hackintosh results. So what we are comparing here is this hopefully MacPro, also sorry, it's winter here. So I hope this is right. You can never be that sure with all the Hackintoshes. I clicked around a little bit. I hope this is the right result. But from the entry-level performance, we already guessed it. So comparing this Mac Pro 7.1 Intel Xeon W3223, 3.5 gigahertz, one processor, 8 core, 16 threads, and a little bit to do whatever Apple Inc. I hope that is legit. If not, then not, whatever. And this is nearly my system. It's Ryzen. So, and I'm comparing here like apples and apple oranges, like Hackintosh most likely. I found here some iMac Pro, which looks like it looks also kind of legit. Otherwise, if we would compare my Linux numbers and the graphics subsystem and so on, not really sure if the graphic stuff here is run on the GPU, but whatever. So the performance, for the most part, totally destroyed, right? So this is single core performance 1052 to 1253, and of course multi-core performance here, totally destroying this 8265 to 14,000. And yes, this is not the same CPU, but that is not the point. The point is I buy this for a fraction of the price. I show you in a moment how much. So why should I buy it? And there you also see, okay, I'm not, of course we are doing Mac development, which theoretically we could also do in virtual machines and theoretically maybe Hackintosh. And this is also Apple's fault. Why are people, more and more people, I meet so many people who I would never have believed doing Hackintosh stuff, which I personally, of course, don't do. For legal reasons, but Apple is to blame for this. People want an affordable desktop system, and in my opinion, they would sell like hotcake. If Apple would make a 2,000, 3,000 euro entry-level SKU, people would run and stand in line and buy them like hotcakes, but they aren't. So yeah, performance-wise, totally destroyed, and price-wise also. Even if we select here, we could of course remove this baseline, set here iMac Pro, set this as baseline, and then search again for Mac Pro with similar core count. Of course the performance will be similar-ish. Mac Pro 7 here, let's see what we are getting. Okay, this is of course 28 cores, so we need to scroll somewhere to somewhat of 16 cores, which may or may not. It's always with Hackintoshes. There are so many Hackintoshes here that it is even hard to see. So it is a little bit, let's see, even so it's even single thread, there you see ECC, Xeon's not the most amazing, single threaded, not turbo boosting the most, and maybe, so the memory is most likely faster in the Ryzen because ECC, so it's buffered ECC, so when you argue with me, but ECC memory, I don't even want freaking ECC memory because it's even freaking slower, and again, you will nearly never, if you run a space station, okay, if you run SpaceX mission control, okay, if you run a nuclear power plant, okay, use ECC memory, but for home video and audio editing, you don't need freaking ECC, the crashes, so macOS, and when you tell me, yeah, but macOS, quality and whatnot, I'm the one who is getting away from macOS because I can't stand the hashtag peakbugs anymore, right? If you follow me on Twitter, macOS has so many bugs. Over the last decade, I more and more used macOS for the desktop. I'm since actually Snowden migrating back. Previously, of course, a decade ago, I used T2, my Linux for the desktop. The last 10 years, I used macOS for the desktop. Yes, you can use it for the desktop. Actually, 10 years ago, it was actually pretty okay. But since then, more peak bugs. Even the cursor doesn't work reliably, the mouse cursor. You can't make this up, just follow me on Twitter. And even the Finder has glitches, not even animation glitches, but network access is super slow. Stuff is crashing. My MacBook Pro, my legit, genuine Apple Mac Pro, not always waking up reliably, most likely related to my 4K MST display, but yeah, whatever. It's also not, it's, if this would be my Linux, right? At least I could fix it. Then I could say, yeah, but it's my crappy Linux. But fact is, my Linux, even my unsuccessful woman Linux these days works more stable and reliable than freaking peakbugs macOS, where even the partitioning tool has bugs, right? You create, I mean, besides it's nearly unusable, this partitioning tool for macOS since a couple of 3 years. It even has bugs. It's hilarious. Even yeah. Anyway, so if we finish this comparison. As we are here professionals with Linux desktop, and of course even in T2 we have Star and LibreOffice or OpenOffice. So make it a little bit a spreadsheet because that is how you're doing it in the business world. So my system here, just a couple of components, and so my build comes out the Ryzen 3950X. I said it in the other video. People ask, have you purchased it yourself? Yes, my company purchased it myself because we need it. Certainly can't buy a Mac Pro, peakbug expensive hardware stuff. So of course the CPU is the most expensive, no surprise, but that is the same at Apple. And some motherboard, this is the Mini ITX one I'm using. And of course you can vary the prices enormously, but this is also the benefit of a PC, right? Of a Linux PC, or even if you, God forbid, use Windows, but whatever, or in Hackintosh. Not that I would recommend this for legal reasons, obviously, or hashtag peakbugs certainly, but so some case, and fun fact, so this is even some euros more. So this is memory, this is of course whopping large memory that you might not even need. That certainly is faster than Apple's buffered ECC memory. Some components here, I have cheaper ones here. I think my PCU was only 79 and my case might only have been 79, but whatever, to make you a point. Also storage, right? If you compare this to Apple's terabyte storage, you pay a freaking, where did I even, here. So storage, of course, it's hilarious. It's similar to previous iMacs that still came, or maybe still come, God forbid Apple, I mean, what are you doing? With rotating magnetic storage. And this here, thankfully not, but 200 is $6,000 or Euro Mac Pro enthusiast desktop pro workstation thing with a whopping 256 gigabyte storage. It's like, seriously, what the heck? Needless to say, I have more in there, and even if you take a terabyte, then I mean 256, right? It's hilarious. If we configure this, so let's configure this a little bit too. So this is entry level. So the entry level for, you see here the build cost of mine, some around $2,000. Even though, yes, you at Apple you get a mouse, you get a freaking keyboard, and you get a freaking mouse. But honestly, I have here perfectly fine keyboard, and certainly mechanical or a Sun or something keyboard is more amazing anyway. And repairable, right? This Apple stuff, it's glued and you can't even repair the keyboard. So if we compare this similarly, then we would need to change this here. Of course, 1,000, so $2,000 euro, 1,800 pound for a 16 core CPU. And then of course you entry level, you only get for 6,000 freaking bucks, you only get 32 gigabyte. Certainly, so we cannot choose exactly my configuration, so either we can choose more or less. You see 200, yeah, whatever, something in between there. We can only choose this or something. And yeah, graphic, of course, also you are limited to mostly, well, except if you buy the power cable connection kit and plug in your own graphic. But then I would argue, if you already buy this workstation or Peakbox workstation, then you certainly don't plug your own graphic card in there. And because the graphic card also, right, this is an entry-level piece of abandoned new old stock somewhere, some from warehouse that they had some leftovers. Here, this Radeon Pro 58. Who would want this in a 6,000 bucks workstation? It's hilarious. And then if you are limited to Apple's option, this overpriced stuff, that of course if you choose the latest and greatest, for example if you are into Linux because you need a freaking Unix-like Linux workstation, a Mac OS-like, and you would want to run some Linux, you would of course, even in my build, if you plug in a 700 euro AMD either 7 or Radeon 5700 for 5 or 700 euro, some really higher end tier, that, yeah, it's so much cheaper. Yes, you cannot, this is a problem. The Apple reality trap fanboys, of course, always, yes, but this is pro hardware, like, yeah, but there's also pro hardware on the PC side and you can choose exactly what you want. Again, if you tuned in later to this, I would argue I have the such Macs, I brought them new here, and I would maybe even for legal reasons for running macOS with our macOS software development, would even purchase an entry level 3,000, maybe even a little bit, or actually I would actually maybe purchase an entry level one and upgrade it myself eventually, like some Mac people now do it nowadays, for 3,000 or maximum 4,000. And also I was totally disappointed by Apple, right? This Mac Pro, very quickly they didn't support it anymore. This had 32-bit EFI, right? Yes, the new one has 64-bit EFI, of course, but you never know how quickly they will abandon support for this again, because they have done in the past, right? With so many Macs, I had so much bad luck, including this one here, over 6,000 euro when new, when my company purchased it, and just maybe 3 years later, you couldn't install the latest macOS anymore because 64-bit EFI. And of course, this was technically possible. Apple could have, of course, they are the vendor, the manufacturer, they could have pushed in BIOS update for 64-bit support, and they were hobby. There you also see, they're already enthusiasts on the Mac who, as a hobby and open source, built an EFI stub for unofficially booting with some open source boot component, EFI stub, 64-bit EFI stub, runtime glue stuff. So much too. Is it technically possible? Yes, of course. And Apple could have, if they wanted to, I said this already multiple times, update this BIOS. No harm there. So coming down to a total cost with all of this here, where so many tabs. So yeah, total cost 9,000. I should have probably done it in dollar or not this freaking British royal pounds, but you get the idea. I think it was like nearly 10,000 euro. Last but not least, this is also the entry level storage. This is here, of course, some proper storage, obviously, right? And and of course the stainless steel wheels, because freaking wheels. If you take a look, I wanted to point out one funny thing. By pure chance, I noticed here, what is in the box. You get a MacPro power lead, USB-C lightning cable. Yay, you get a free cable. Amazing stuff. A keyboard and a mouse. It's yeah, well, whatever. And here, I noticed this, as this is also why I used the UK version. I wanted to show you attention to detail, not at Apple anymore. Power lead US version only. I mean, freaking, they can't even have attention to detail. When people tell me, Apple, just follow me on Twitter with all the Peakbox, I probably soon stop with all the peak bugs on Twitter, because not only have I collected 100 to 200 peak bugs of glitches and bugs and crashes and iMovie and mouse cursor off, but previously Apple was attention to details. I just posted the other day Finder animation, right? If you animate the Finder, a total glitchy animation there, if you change directories. Apple is not about attention to detail anymore. They are just maximizing profit. And under Steve Jobs, I would argue it would have never happened, that they are so lazy. In my opinion, if this is my small company, then yeah, whatever. Obviously, we have their one icon for. But they cannot even for 6,000 euro entry-level workstation in the individual countries have the correct image for the power cable. Because I noticed this is why I used the UK version, because I wanted to show you this in the German version. Obviously, it's the same in the German version. But it's just like power cable, yeah, whatever. This is just a little bit side note joke. Of course, the biggest joke is how expensive this thing is. And again, yes, apples and oranges, but again, I also like oranges. I would probably even argue I like oranges more. And not only proprietary components, I cannot repeat, yes, I repeat this a little bit, but some people need to hear it 5 times until finally understanding it. You cannot, if something breaks, you cannot even just swap something out because it's just not regular off-the-shelf component. And it happened to me, right? I said this before, the G5 power supply broke actually on idle, so I think I was working, went to bed, slept, woke up in the morning, wanted to switch it on, and it didn't switch on anymore. 15 years. So when the G5 was new, in warranty, and I know because, of course, you buy an expensive workstation, and this has not changed at Apple. They do not have, usually, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, at least in Germany or somewhere else, they do not have on-site service, right? What you would get, if people argue, yes, but at Dell or Lenovo, you pay a similar price, which usually is much lower, and you can swap stuff out yourself. But at Dell and Lenovo and stuff, for such expensive workstations, you also get on-site service. And I had to carry my G5 to Apple, right? As a student without a car, obviously public transport Fridays for Future, even 15 years ago, so I carried my freaking G5 through the subway, all the way through Berlin to the freaking Apple service provider, authorized Apple service provider, to have this repaired, and carried all the freaking nearly 20 or 15 whatever plus kilogram thing back. It was a nice exercise, but after this my arms hurted for a week. So I'm not a bodybuilder. But so much to the pro service, right? When people argue, why do I tell you this anecdotal story? Because this is the service you get for a $6,000, euro, 5,000 whatever, something British pound, entry-level workstation. You don't get such kind of service. So this is the summary why I went not only with all the peak bugs and App Store and app notarization, here only previous videos on this channel. I'm not satisfied. Also for decades, I said this again, I'm even the target audience, right? Can't repeat this often enough. Not only did I purchase some, but certainly I loved, even as a student already, although I got some used Silicon graphics, Sun Microsystems, obviously I could not afford them, but got them just for the professional Linux stuff. I even got the first PowerPC Macs, I got them for Linux work. So my first probably was an iBook, I think, as far as I remember, and the MacPro certainly was later. So 600 megahertz iBook. I said it before, at that time Mac OS 10.2 or 10.1, 10.2. Obviously slow piece of microkernel, not amazing stuff. I put the optical discs in the trash and installed my T2 Linux. So yes, even as a student, I was a customer at Apple for the PowerPC hardware, and even the G5. Fun fact, the G5 was the same, right? The G5 I purchased when I was the last quarter as a student, just the year before I opened Xcode, and even as still a student, freelance open source stuff. The G5 I didn't use with macOS. Same story, optical media into the trash, and booted up my T2 Linux, certainly because you know me from this channel and that's what we are running here. So let's take a look at the audience's live stream. Amazing stuff today, 0 drop frames, so whatever was up yesterday with Doxys, 33 minutes, not too bad for live stream. Some people watching this is also amazing. Welcome everyone here in the audience. Almost the shelf. By the way, before I read the comments, which usually we continue then forever with the comments, if we could, of course, so if you are interested in this as a case, I do not even like the most, but if you are a fan of this case, there is some MacPro copy case, there is some Kickstarter crowdfunding something here. If you want this, so quite identical copy, maybe again, I'm not even the greatest fan of this. I have cheese grater, MacPro and G5, but in a way it is, what is the price here, even 500 or whatever. It's only maybe 199. Where's even, do they have a link here? Redesigned MacPro Doom Pro. But again, for this money, yes, I would buy it for this money, but I'm not even the greatest fan of this, and maybe I just buy it for the total YouTube fun of it. Although for 199 you only get the old-fashioned cheese grater. If you want this new style alien face kind of cheese grater, where's here the price? Pre-order there probably. Then you need to pay some hundred something extra. So they have crowdsourced 500,000. I'm somewhat wondering if Apple will sue them. So yeah, standard plus dice. I mean, this is actually a fair price. I'm somewhat tempted to order it. Although I'm a little bit don't want to clutter the office here with. Also, very theoretically, I could actually really just get it for the fun of it and use it as my case. But whatever. But there are even more expensive PC cases, right? One case that I nearly previously saw. I'm already so long not satisfied with Apple. You've seen this on this channel. Not only did I start YouTube for having more fun with more fun stuff than this peak bugs macOS Apple stuff that is just depressive how buggy stuff can be made. If we have here some BMW. There was some thermal take that was pretty cool. It's also not for everyone's taste, but that was, in my opinion, relatively thick. It is end of production, so I'm sometimes wondered if I should get a used one from eBay. I thought this is actually, yes, it's not Apple style, but whatever. Just as an example, are there expensive PC cases? Yes, of course there are. I thought this is pretty. Also, at least this is not a copy of a Mac case. I think it was $299 when it was new. And if we make this totally fancy, right? So this is already the most fancy desktop CPU that you can get right now. Even if we make this a more fancy motherboard, probably $299. This is already fancy memory. But again, 64 gigabyte, right? This is already like top notch. But if you want 128, just don't get a mini ITX, get a full size, double this, 700 still, not the end of the world. If we make this something design-wise like a thermal take BMW thing, although that is out of production, but $299 just for the sake of it. If you say you want a premium case, also premium, let's make this a premium power supply unit thing. And if we make this a total more amazing AMD whatever, let's just put here $699. So then we are approaching 3,000 euro or dollar for a really totally maxed out, and this is a configuration that at Apple is around 10,000 right, so $10,000 euro. Yeah, for companies who for Americans, because I think in America it's not the VAT listed, right? So even this is end user price in Germany for your Americans watching. In Europe, usually, I think probably everywhere, probably by law in most states in Europe, the end user price, the final price with VAT needs to be listed. That the end user knows what they buy. So this is already with VAT. So for the Americans, this is even here minus VAT of 19% in Germany, even less, 2.5. So, and additionally, I wanted to mention before people say, yes, but this is components and Apple has some profit margin. Yes, this is already end user retail pricing with profit margin on the individual components. And certainly nobody is selling me, and this is already with AMD Ryzen, I think the official price is more 749. Right now it's just inflated for lack of supply. This is already with top-notch margins here. These are normal prices. although certainly Apple's profit margin is way higher because Apple, and otherwise this is final pricing where people already earned good money, at least certainly I hope they do. But even if you add there some nice profit margin of 100%, which is certainly unheard of in PC workstation world, but even so, even with a profit margin of doubling this, it is still way margin below Apple pricing. But yeah, I hope that covers everything from performance, comparison, flexibility, vendor lock-in, and VAT and profit margin. And if you argue, but macOS, then I would argue, yeah, but macOS is nowadays not even a selling point anymore because all the peak bugs and limited flexibility in what you can do as a pro, certainly on Linux, BSD, or if you must, then Windows. Let's finally take a look on the comments where you have quite some people tuning in. That is amazing. If you have any comments here to the calculation or points, and again, I have nothing against Apple making good money. I have nothing against Apple selling amazing systems, but this is neither an amazing performance for your money, nor serviceability, nor on-site service. And it comes with an operating system that, in my opinion, nowadays is a little bit peak bugs, somewhat, I would probably say, somewhat the Microsoft Vista kind of macOS releases. Yeah, how this continues, we will see with more locked bootloader locking, T2 security, enclave locking, and what is there for the future to come. I would also, that is also a fun fact, right? Data recovery and stuff, you probably see it, Louis Rossman. If this is true that you cannot swap the SSD, even if you buy, I think the SSD is the same as in the iMac, I think, here on the Apple side. If this is true, that this is the same SSD, I also made a video, right? This is proprietary, already in MacBooks and Mac Minis, proprietary SSD connectors, totally annoying. And as a pro, if I would run a music studio, which, fun fact, I've done at least semi-professionally 20 years ago, before university and at school with 8-channel stuff on Linux and so on. Said this before, maybe for the, with all the peak bugs and getting depressive with all the state of IT security, maybe I should rather open a music studio. If I open a music studio or a movie studio or something, I would probably not get this at all, because not only on-site service, but also if something fails, you can just swap something out on the Linux PC BSD kind of Windows side, and here you need to bring it in. It's super expensive, it takes days or weeks, and if you lose your data, if people say but T2 for security, T2 security enclave chip there, then it's not even the best for your music studio if you can't run your stuff and lose your data. And that, yes, backups and network attached storage, but there's always something and getting set up again and whatnot, and certainly there's always some file and setting and something to be lost. So even for this reliability part, on if I would really do this, I would, again, from the performance, from the price, from flexibility, totally not get this at all. Let's finally take a look at the comments. Nicely many people tuned in today. Let's see if they had more to say here. It's most official, but it's not that it uses a high bandwidth connection between the CPU and GPUs. Interested to see how they change this performance. So not really sure how much custom stuff they've done there, but then this is, again, if you run Linux or Windows, how non-standard it is. Although maybe mostly transparent, if it is really true that they have said something custom, maybe not, but again, J. Tansyan needs something. Honestly, the price isn't a big issue. I think most people would eventually pay for a Mac Pro if Apple made them so solidly that they don't break constantly, and Apple support was great. Yeah, again, I have nothing against the price. They can sell this for this price. But I would also, so first of all, these entry-level components, again, to summarize this, entry-level components are not the best performance, not the best bang for the buck. I have nothing against selling a 6 or 30,000 euro SKU with this kind of higher performance, but this is not what most people want, right? A hospital a music studio, even a music studio does not necessarily really need this. There are so many software developers. Also, Apple is like completely ignoring this market between portable devices and professional workstation. And historically, Apple had a SKU for that. The G5, the original Mac Pro, Apple had this SKU. They're just totally ignoring it. And even, in my opinion, this is also a complete management fail, because they exactly push people, normal people, for home use, for gaming, developers, musicians, small semi-professional musicians, for some light mixing and production at home. All of them either turn to Windows or Linux or to a Hackintosh at this 2,000 or 3,000 euro SKU. And in my opinion, there would not be, they should have simply, and this is also, Apple is not smart anymore, not except peak bugs and this kind of setup in SKU. If Apple would be smarter, they would have started the Mac Pro at a 3,000 euro SKU. This is still half the price. I mean, 3,000 euro is still a lot of money for a lot of people, for a student getting into software development or stuff like that. And 3,000 euro is still a high price when you get a PC for 1,000, a really good PC for 1,000. But this is just insanity. This is just Apple totally in their spaceship campus thing, totally losing the connection to reality. Seriously, so more common, seriously, if the machine just worked and didn't get in people's way when they wanted to work. Did I mention it's winter here? Yeah, even not only peak bugs, but macOS also starts to seriously annoy me as a developer. I do something, even I open iMovie, and macOS asks me, do you want to allow me to access your download folder? It's like, yes, freaking, I just clicked on it. Give me my freaking video, or basically everything. Even you click the import button the first time in iMovie, like constantly, every 10 or 15 minutes I get some, do you want to allow some program to access something, totally gets into my way. If you work on the terminal, which of course only professionals do, you constantly get this, right? You do something in the terminal with moving something, SEDing something, rsyncing something, and then do you want to allow your terminal to access your download folder? Do you want to allow a terminal to access your desktop? And recently I've run find. I was looking for some file in some source tree. I've run find -name something whatever, and then I even got, because this was of course also recursively searching in the hidden library preferences folder, then I even got terminal. Do you want to allow terminal to access your contacts? Because the generic message of it's some contacts related file in library preferences. It's not fun anymore. It's totally annoying in my opinion, on top of all the peak bugs. Which the peak bugs certainly totally annoying. More common, sadly, Apple just doesn't do that. If they would appeal to more people better than Microsoft, but they don't. Yeah, in my opinion, totally agree. And in my opinion, Apple is becoming the new Microsoft. Microsoft became a little bit, I mean, Microsoft's still not amazing, but with embracing Linux, Apple is becoming a little bit more usable, and in my opinion, Apple macOS stuff more user unfriendly, more buggy certainly, and not even the highest usability anymore. With also, do you want to allow something for this pseudo privacy? I really don't need an operating system that each time I click something in my, I write an invoice in OpenOffice, custom invoice. I want to save it to the documents folder. Do you want to allow OpenOffice to access your documents folders? Like, yeah, I mean, seriously, that is why I clicked save, didn't I? But yeah. About storage, so RVM about storage, Apple uses custom SSD controller in conjunction with secure chip provide hardware encryption. Also, custom SSD based on Proprietary pure version, which increases the memory cell lifespan. Not really. So this is a lot of this is I don't buy this. This is just like, yeah, Apple previously used Samsung, and also this flash manufacturers certainly know how to drive their flash cells. I have it hard to believe that they get any increased lifespan. Also, I would rather, so they last certainly 5 years. I'd rather buy something 7 times cheaper than, and that I can switch off. Also, hardware encryption, I never used hardware encryption. In my opinion, hardware encryption is garbage. I rather have this under my operating system control, that I can review the code. Also with this pseudo-proprietary hardware encryption, who can guarantee you that this Apple stuff is really safe? If you have if you work with the government and have some government projects or whatever, SpaceX and you name it, who can guarantee you that the stuff is really safe? I rather have my Linux software implementation, which I can read and verify. And in case of data recovery, right? If this is encrypted, I mean, first of all, nearly no one needs this for your music studio. So the target audience, nobody of the target audience, if the most luxury designers and musicians, nobody of them needs hardware encryption. And if you want, and again, software encryption, at least in my opinion, code that you can read is more secure, especially if you verify this with 10,000 people, than some obscure stuff that you can't even take a look at. And then data recovery, if you really need your data, then it's like encrypted by Apple and you can never get it off of there. So yes, from Germany, right now. Another question: have you ever used any BSD or a little bit for testing? Except macOS certainly, otherwise only a little bit of testing. But certainly soon need to write my own display. 8K, so Carlos writes 8K hardware with an RX 580. The display is a separate thing. In my opinion, this display is the same. Yes, it has good values, but again, this display is not what people were asking for, right? I purchased new with the G5 later a 20-inch Apple Cinema display for whatever that was back in the day, 600 euro or 699 or whatever that might have been. And people want a normal display. People, who needs this display? Nearly nobody. Maybe the most luxury fashion designer or movie studio people, but you can count them on how many of those exist in Berlin or New York. And this is hilarious. They have here products. This might be relatively good, and also with the display, don't get me started with the stupid stand. The display, the specs might be comparable to whatever Sony, whatever, yada yada yada. But if, first of all, this is not what people want, again, Apple is just ignoring the normal mid-tier market of normal human beings like you and me. Even with my image processing, I don't need this, right? I have a Dell, these displays here are not my main displays, these are old company issued. I have a Dell 4K 23-inch because honestly, I don't even need a larger display. 20, otherwise I just keep moving my head and it's like, yeah, 23-inch, fine with me. The Dell display is also already 4 years or so. This Dell display was even not the cheapest. When new, it was 1,100 euro. 4K back in the day, when 4 years ago this was MST multi-stream technology, which probably keeps macOS crashing a little bit because yeah, macOS peak bugs. This Dell 4K MST display, even with whatever the ultra sharp fine something color stuff, it's fine enough with me, even with color processing stuff and document scanning, driver development stuff. Then again, I might even be more or less a target audience, right? You see, even with image processing scanner, yes, it's not Photoshop, but yeah, whatever, I could still high fidelity image data or whatever stuff. I would even somewhat be the target audience, but most people are not. So this display is for nobody at home. Even if you are a semi-professional photographer, you cannot tell me that normal person as a hobby gets this display. So this display nearly nobody would get. And even for enthusiast developers, normal Mac app developers do not need this for nothing. Even people like myself, like maybe I could use it a little bit with my image processing, at least it fits somewhat. But then the maximum I would maybe spend was also again like, even if it would be 3,000, it would be like only because I have too much money to waste because I don't really need it, whatever. You see, I not only this display, this neck was my previously decade ago, my main display. So the Dell display 1100 was already, yeah, this is the most fancy display I would actually need for the next year, still use it. If I, again, and I'm already an over average requirement developer who has like no need for all of this and is only shaking the head about the prices and SKUs. So yeah, RX 580, exactly what they put even in Navi, something here. People used to pay influenced image, and then people like iJustine and such like, yay, I have a MacPro stuff like for iMovie, for YouTube videos, like, it's like, yeah, that is the target audience, or I don't know. I was interested, so Abdullah was interested in System 76 Station at the time. What do you think about them? I've not even really looked too much, but it's like, yeah, system. One thing I would say, I like buying, building myself in them. I actually grew up with this, right? Actually, so my DNA is like PC building. So not only did we tinker with when my father had the 286 and even without hard drive and 386, and so I actually grew up like my father's electrician, right? I was using his soldering iron, or even already when I was not allowed to use it. And we were swapping floppy controllers and floppies and VGA and EGA and Hercules cards in 286 and later 386. And then I built my first PC myself from components, a Pentium 120 megahertz. Initially even with an old ISA card because it didn't even have more money, I said this before. So my DNA is actually also then certainly with Linux, my DNA is do it yourself. This PowerPC stuff, the only thing that trapped me a little bit in the Apple ecosystem was the PowerPC stuff for PowerPC Linux, and then due to the Mac apps I kept. The Intel Macs were not even outstanding, right? I had the black polycarbonate, you've seen in, maybe on this channel, all the Macs, so I have plenty of Macs. My company purchased over the last decade plenty of Macs, but I'm not buying new ones. And the Intel Macs were also not outstanding, right? The plastic was breaking, the performance was not outstanding, they were thermal throttling even back in the day. So it's not like we were the most satisfied with the Intel Macs to start with anyway. So what else do we have here? Used the influenced image, something System 76, so what? Oh yeah, right. This. Actually, I think now that you say it, I think I've seen this and I think I didn't like, I didn't like the look here, so this is not my look. But two things. So first thing, this is how I came to actually building myself is somewhat my DNA, certainly also with tinkering software in Linux. This look is not for me, but if this look is okay, but there's also, yeah, I would already not buy this for the looks, but if that's okay for you, maybe go for it. I in general wanted to recommend buy from small companies, small and local companies. That is certainly more sustainable, keeps local people employed, and public service stuff, taxes paid, and I mean, not like Apple would pay taxes in Europe, right, for schools and streets and whatnot. So yeah, rather probably buy at local small companies, do build the stuff yourself from local shops and whatnot. Better bang for the buck flexibility, and maybe in a music studio like Louis Rossmann, they had Avatar Studios wherever he worked. Maybe it's even better for a music studio to have some Louis Rossmann and build some PCs to their needs, and then they have a local person who can service this, because unless you are Louis Rossmann, but even Louis Rossmann cannot save your data from your T2 encrypted SSD. So yeah. Let's see, to be fair, Navi is for gaming, Vega is for compute. More comments people use, so we had this, 76, so this is, yeah, the comments sometimes jumping when I scroll here. Teraflops each can do, RX 580 much less than Navi, something, I think he's focused on CPU compile time, not, yes, I'm probably next getting a more sophisticated GPU as well. We will for sure do more compute stuff here as well. Just wanted to slowly get into building the stuff and testing Ryzen and self-built stuff here more again. So that is also the Ryzen build. And next we will, I need to check the detailed performance numbers, maybe 5700 for a start. And yeah, Sorry. Yeah, that's it for this performances, of course. And there you see, even if you compare even if you spec this similarly, your DIY stuff. So even has this, someone mentioned in the comments, custom logic for high bandwidth, whatever, like YOLO, I don't care. You don't see this in the numbers. The performance is even worse due to ECC buffered memory. So even my slow large modules are faster than the buffered ones. And questions audience, Radeon 7. I need to check. I saw Radeon 7. I think it consumed more power, right? I need to check the exact numbers. Maybe it was less power efficient. I think it was slightly older, right? So 5700 might be a newer refresh. And then usually I do not necessarily need the highest performance. If it's a little bit more power efficient, then usually I also go with that. That's it for the summary. I hope you learned something. If it only is that even if you are a high-end developer, I do not buy into this, and how the price compares. And otherwise, if we continue talking, we can maybe later do more programming live stream on the more live stream channel. That's it for this live stream. I'm certainly pretty satisfied here with the Radeon build. I would, and even if you tell me reliability from PC stuff, nearly nothing broke. I have here Phenoms, even Phenom 2, X4 and X6, quad and 6 core. Nothing failed of this stuff. It's running for 5, 6, 7 years. Even we had the old office router was an Intel Atom 330 board. Even that was running fine for a decade without any issue. Gave it to my father for some TV multimedia thing now. Nothing, I can't even really remember the only PC stuff that failed were hard drives, like the IBM stuff back in the day. And but that also failed at Apple. I also have here failed Apple hard drives. Actually, fun fact, I had the feeling the Apple branded OEM drives failed more often, but the holidays. Otherwise, Happy New Year already. Hope to see you soon. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Maybe we see you later in more live. I was thinking too, but now it's already a little bit late-ish. Actually, not too late yet. Maybe we do RISC-V. I wanted to do some RISC-V, FPGA RISC-V here. And I wanted to try some own code generation. Long-term goal here, writing some nice fun stuff. RISC-V here without Linux, of course. This is just in the firmware, low-level bare metal without OS anyway here. Anyway, welcome Detard. You thanks for joining. You just joined when we are done. You certainly can watch the on-demand archive. And otherwise, maybe we go live in some minutes or later on the More Live channel for some RISC-V fun. Thanks for watching. If you watch this later in the archive and have comments, yes, we compared apples and oranges, but that is the nature. And yes, I think I'm the target audience of maybe theoretically the MacPro, still not getting it. And anyway, if you disagree with anything, leave it in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to the comments. And hope to see you later for all the more live fun to come.